Burkina Faso's game-changing plan, massive free housing program. Announced brothers and sisters, hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to share with you today will completely blow your mind and prove once again why Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not just a leader. He's a revolutionary force that's reshaping the entire African continent. Picture this. While European nations struggle with housing crises, while American cities battle homelessness, while millions of people across the globe pay outrageous rents to landlords who exploit their basic need for shelter, and while corrupt African politicians build luxurious mansions for themselves using stolen public funds, one young visionary leader has just announced something that will change the lives of hundreds of thousands of families forever. We're talking about Burkina Faso's absolutely groundbreaking announcement of a massive free housing program. 50,000 brand new modern homes that will be given absolutely free to the people of Burkina Faso. Not loans with crushing interest rates, not subsidies that barely help, not rent-to-own schemes that trap families in debt, but completely free homes with full ownership transferred to the families. This is the kind of news that makes colonial powers tremble in their boardrooms, that makes international financial institutions panic about their business models, and that inspires millions across Africa because it represents everything that true African leadership should be. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has once again proven that when you put people before profit, when you prioritize citizens over foreign interests, when you choose sovereignty over dependency, absolute miracles happen that change the course of history. As he famously declared in his powerful speeches, "We must stop being slaves in our own land." And today's historic announcement is the perfect embodiment of that revolutionary philosophy that's transforming not just Burkina Faso, but inspiring liberation movements across the entire African continent. This isn't just about providing housing. This is fundamentally about restoring dignity to African people, asserting complete sovereignty over national resources, and showing the entire world that Africa doesn't need Western charity, doesn't need conditional loans from exploitative institutions, doesn't need development models imposed by former colonizers to take care of its own people. While France continues its systematic exploitation through the CFA franc system, while international corporations extract billions in profits from African resources, while Western nations lecture African countries about governance, while their own cities are filled with homeless people, Burkina Faso, under Captain Traoré's visionary leadership, is using its own wealth, its own resources, its own expertise to build a better future for every single citizen. The announcement has already sent massive shockwaves across international media outlets, not because they're genuinely celebrating Africa's success, which they should be, but because they're absolutely terrified of what this revolutionary initiative represents. The undeniable rise of truly independent African leadership that serves its people rather than foreign masters, that prioritizes human dignity over corporate profits, that chooses national development over international dependency. Every single one of these 50,000 homes represents so much more than just building materials and construction. Each home represents a family that will sleep peacefully, knowing they own their shelter. Children who will grow up with the stability and security that comes from having a permanent address. Parents who can invest in their children's education instead of paying rent to exploitative landlords. Elderly grandparents who will have something tangible to pass down to future generations, and dreams that will now have solid foundations built on African soil by African hands for African families. This is exactly what happens when a leader truly understands that the real wealth of any nation is never measured by how much foreign investors profit from exploiting local resources, but rather by how well the ordinary citizens live, how secure families feel, how hopeful children are about their futures, and how proud people are of their country and their leadership. The timing of this announcement couldn't be more perfect and more symbolic, as it comes at exactly the moment when Africa is finally awakening to its immense potential, rejecting the neo-colonial systems that have kept entire nations dependent and underdeveloped for decades, and embracing new models of governance that put African solutions to African problems at the center of development strategies. But here's where this incredible story gets even more amazing, and why every single African, every person who believes in social justice, every individual who supports genuine independence and self-determination should pay very close attention to what's happening right now in Burkina Faso under Captain Ibrahim Traore's revolutionary leadership. This massive housing program isn't some hastily announced political stunt designed to win votes. It's not an empty promise made by politicians who never intend to deliver. It's not a pilot project that will benefit only a few connected families. This is a meticulously planned, fully funded, systematically organized, and already actively underway transformation that's being executed with military precision, civilian compassion, and unwavering commitment to serving the people. The construction work has already begun simultaneously in multiple regions across the entire country, with local engineers who understand the climate and geography, local architects who respect traditional building styles while incorporating modern conveniences, local contractors who are finally getting the opportunities they deserve, and local builders whose skills and expertise are being recognized and rewarded rather than being overlooked in favor of foreign consultants who charge exorbitant fees while delivering inferior results. This comprehensive approach ensures that every single franc spent on this historic project stays within Burkina Faso's economy, contributes directly to building local capacity and expertise, creates thousands of jobs for local workers, and strengthens the entire construction industry from the ground up. These aren't basic emergency shelters or temporary housing solutions we're talking about. These are modern, beautifully designed, fully equipped homes with proper sanitation systems, reliable electricity connections, clean water access, adequate ventilation, sufficient space for growing families, and architectural designs that respect traditional Burkinabe culture while fully embracing contemporary living standards that any family would be proud to call home. Each individual home is being constructed with high-quality materials sourced primarily from local suppliers wherever possible, creating a sustainable economic ecosystem that benefits the entire nation rather than enriching foreign corporations that extract wealth from Africa while contributing nothing to long-term development. The architectural designs reflect both practical functionality for daily living and deep cultural sensitivity to traditional aesthetics, incorporating elements that make these houses truly feel like authentic homes rooted in African heritage, rather than generic structures copied from foreign templates that ignore local preferences and customs. The systematic selection process for beneficiaries has been carefully designed to prioritize the most vulnerable and deserving members of society. Single mothers who are raising children alone while struggling to afford basic housing. Elderly citizens who have dedicated their entire lives to serving their communities and deserve dignity and comfort in their final years. Disabled individuals who require accessible housing designed specifically for their needs. Young couples who are just starting families and need stable foundations for their dreams. Essential workers like teachers and healthcare providers whose vital contributions to society have long gone unrecognized and unrewarded, and hardworking citizens whose daily labor builds the nation, but who have been systematically excluded from homeownership opportunities. This represents genuine social justice in concrete action, not just in political speeches delivered at conferences or empty promises made during election campaigns, but in actual concrete blocks being laid, steel beams being erected, roofing materials being installed, and real front door keys being personally handed to deserving families who honestly thought homeownership was completely impossible within their lifetimes. The brilliant funding strategy demonstrates both pure genius in financial planning and complete independence from exploitative international systems. Instead of begging international financial institutions for loans with impossible repayment conditions and restrictive policies that would mortgage the country's future for generations, Captain Traore's administration has strategically redirected resources from unnecessary government expenses that serve no public benefit, eliminated completely wasteful spending on vanity projects that served foreign interests rather than addressing local needs, formed mutually beneficial strategic partnerships with friendly nations who genuinely respect Burkina Faso's sovereignty and offer real cooperation based on equality rather than exploitation, and created innovative financing mechanisms that keep the entire country completely debt-free while effectively serving its people's most fundamental needs. As Captain Traoré powerfully declared in one of his most inspiring addresses to the nation, "We will absolutely not mortgage our children's future to build our present." And this transformative housing program proves that revolutionary principle in practical action through creative solutions that prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term political gains. The positive ripple effects of this program are already visibly transforming communities throughout Burkina Faso. Local construction companies are rapidly expanding their operations and hiring additional workers at competitive wages. Skilled laborers are experiencing unprecedented demand for their services, with wages rising accordingly across the entire industry. Local suppliers of building materials are enjoying boom periods that allow them to invest in expanding their production capacity. Transportation companies are benefiting significantly from dramatically increased logistics needs. Small businesses are thriving as workers have more disposable income to spend in their communities, and most importantly, genuine hope and optimism are being systematically restored in communities that had almost completely given up on their government's ability to deliver meaningful, life-changing improvements to their daily existence. International observers, development experts, economists, and policy researchers are studying this revolutionary model intensively because it fundamentally challenges every single assumption that has been made about development in Africa for decades. Proving conclusively through practical results that you absolutely don't need World Bank loans with their restrictive conditions and interest rates designed to keep countries permanently indebted. You don't need expensive foreign consultants who charge exorbitant fees while delivering cookie-cutter solutions that ignore local contexts. You don't need to follow Western development templates that have consistently failed African countries and kept them dependent on external assistance. And you don't need to sacrifice national sovereignty to achieve meaningful progress for your people. The first families are already moving into their beautiful new homes, and the videos circulating on social media of their pure joy, their tears of gratitude, their children excitedly running through rooms that their families actually own, their elderly relatives blessing the spaces where they can live with dignity. These powerful images are worth infinitely more than any GDP statistics compiled by international organizations or foreign investment reports published by multinational corporations, because they represent genuine human transformation that touches the soul and changes lives forever. This is exactly what authentic development looks like when it's designed by Africans for Africans, implemented by African professionals using African resources, and executed according to African priorities rather than foreign agendas. This is what true independence achieves when leaders consistently prioritize serving their people over pleasing international observers. And this is precisely why Captain Ibrahim Traoré and Burkina Faso are rapidly becoming the beacon of hope and inspiration for the entire African continent, and motivating similar revolutionary movements across the developing world that refuse to accept poverty and dependency as permanent conditions.